Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Toxic Mold Masterclass. This is kind of one of our bonus interviews with a real life client. This is our client, Mitzi Sinnott. Who I've known for a few years now from the hormone fields. And then you've been working more with my colleagues since you found out you had mold. But I'm sure there's some backstory. I'm curious, Mitzi, do you feel like now looking back, your hormones were affected by mold and you didn't realize it? Or tell us about the beginning of all this.
Wow. Yeah, there's a crazy backstory, but I want to keep it as concise as possible. And, I was saying to a friend recently, I do kind of think, I don't know which came first, the hormone issues, the mold, what exacerbated. I just wonder. I moved back home to Kentucky from New York City. It's
What
almost,
year was that? Yeah, get the
yeah,
timeline.
so it's almost like 10 years ago. So we have a beautiful property, 5.5 acres in Eastern Kentucky, 3-story home that we inherited from our grandparents that I grew up in. And so I was excited to go home. 2, 3 years in, I got a steroid shot in my knee for the first time. And I had never really done that kind of steroid. And I had insurance for the first time in a while. And everybody here has a lot of knee problems and joint problems. And so it was like, go to that doctor, get that shot, and I don't typically do that. So it was very quick, Bridget, like 15 minutes. She was like, oh, your knees, we did the x-ray. You don't have a lot of deterioration, but you do, maybe this steroid shot would help. And it was so quick. And I'm like, okay. That night, my leg was on fire and it was going all through my body, the pain and the discomfort. And it started from there. I went back to them. They did an MRI to see if I had a blood clot. I had a gig, the next week. I bled for 30 days after that with my period. I've never done that in my life. I'm very regular and not very heavy, in fact. From there, that next day or couple days, I remember smelling mold in the house for the first time. I was like, what is this smell in here? In the bedroom that I was sleeping in downstairs, I was like, oh my God, this is gross. And my mom was like, what? And I'm like, and so immediately felt the heaviness. Now I can clearly identify it was my lungs and the breathing. And energy just started leaving me for the next very long period of time. I had to go do that gig in Maryland that was coming up. I called a doctor here in my hometown area and I said, I'm bleeding and it's scaring me. She was like, go get some iron pills right away. It never stopped 30 days, and I came back home and really couldn't breathe. Every chemical, everything was bothering me to the point I couldn't breathe. Went to my,
Ah,
went to my general practitioner here. And I didn't know them. They're not my New York doctors that I've been with for 20 years. And I was like, I started reading already online because my mom and them were like, you need allergy medicine, you need this, and I'm like, I'm not taking all that. What are you talking about? The general practitioner, I said, it feels like my immune system. How do we strengthen my immune system? And he went like this.
a literal shrug.
And I was like, I told my mom, I was like, listen, I'm going to die here if I stay here, because we had just had friends, older friends that had gone into the hospital with pneumonia and they died. And I was like, no disrespect to my people here. I'm Appalachian. I'm half Appalachian and New Yorker. But I was like, these people, they're going to let me die here. They are not innovative. They're not innovative in arts. We're artists. We already know. And I was like, I'm going to call your brother. His wife had a lung transplant. And I knew in his home, they had moved different homes because of mold, because of chemicals. So
Wow.
they had a home that was clean.
Did you say a lung transplant? I didn't
Yes.
even know you could do that.
Yeah. And
That's
it didn't,
intense.
it is. And it didn't work so well for her. She passed
Wow.
away. And my uncle
Wow.
spent the last 7 to 10 years of her life moving from home to home to home, which I now really understand, because
Yeah.
that became my life for the
Okay,
last.
let's regard. Yeah, now that you have this knowledge, I love hearing these stories because then as with our functional health knowledge, a steroid shot suppresses your immune system, right? That's how it brings down the inflammation. So it sounds like to me, your immune system was suppressed at the same time, kind of triggered, reacting, and then suddenly it was like, oh, what else is a threat? What else is a threat? Suddenly you could smell everything. Your body's going haywire. Yeah, and that's kind of true for any sort of injection we get in a sense, because you don't know how you're going to react and you can't take it back. It's quick.
It's interesting. You said your body goes, what else is a threat? Now I understand that, but I didn't. So then everything became a threat. And then even when I went to my uncle's in Louisville, Kentucky to live with him in the clean house, it kept getting worse. And I guess now we know my body wasn't detoxing. It doesn't detox very well, but this is 8 years, or no, sorry, that was 2000, late 2014 became 15. 6 years later, now I know that, but didn't. But the good thing, there were a couple integratives in Louisville who right away, and a friend who's an integrative on the phone, her partner is an integrative. And I called her because I do all kinds of healing modalities. Listen, I got issues. So I'm always trying to spiritually heal myself, heal my family systems, all that stuff, right? So one of my holographic repatterning specialists,
One of your many. I love
I love her, by the way. But I called her and I was like, oh my God, can you help me? Like, and she goes, hey, I don't feel comfortable. I'll ask my partner if she will talk to you. She did. So she started telling me what you're saying, Bridget. My whole system was on alert. And I was like, I didn't understand that. I have a biology degree, but I didn't understand. Having that has helped. So she goes, the firemen, the police are on high alert all day, every day. We got to calm it down. That's when we did the vitamin C, D3, magnesium. And the first thing for detoxing that was awesome was King chlorella. And I got to tell people about this. The first time I put that in my system, that it must have been within the first month. In fact, I'm sure it is. I've looked back at calendars. Doing the King chlorella, like that first day, because the little ones from allergy research, I think, or something, they're the little bitty. So you take out 12 or
Take
something.
bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. So that night, I've called them and I've called other people. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, in my sleep, what in the world is going on? It felt like little green men or something, women, green people in my body. It was like bong, ching, bong, ching. It was like everything was like, it was like, I don't know. It's the weirdest stuff
You did
ever.
a full dose at once, it sounds like, too, which we always tell people not to, but me included, we always do it.
But my body
Yeah.
was like, you're moving all kinds, and now we know you're moving all kinds of stuff that's been stuck for what? Oh my God.
Amazing. I really went through a chlorella phase too. It's very energizing and reset. It's great. Yeah. Maybe not a fit for everyone, right? But
No. But now I learned that too. Like there are times, so I also have to say during that period, I could not ride in a car. The pressure on my lungs in a car hurt. I was in bed for probably the first 3 or 4 months, like shocked emotionally, I think for sure. Leaving my home, like I wasn't planning to just move. And then, being with my uncle, and thank God he was very kind and didn't ask me much questions about what are you doing next or anything like that. And I stayed there for almost a year. And my cousins were so awesome. We got to the point where it was like when the immune started getting a little better, but not even to the level I am now. But so I was wearing a mask before it was sexy.
so you didn't know mold per se. You just were like, I'm sensitive,
Everything.
my
I thought it
lungs
was
hurt.
everything. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And this was pretty soon afterwards, that first
Yes.
year. I love that you're sharing some of the helpful people in your life, because we can get, especially when we're in the thick of it, embarrassed, feel so discouraged. But I think in every story, there are those helpful supplements, those helpful people. And I love it, coming out of someone's mouth like King chlorella. That's what or my cousins were so great. Like there's always this, when you're open to it. So,
Yeah, that how that is. Like the fan I had responded to you and said, convincing your family, like my mom still to this day, and I'll get to that, but she's like, can't you just be strong and move forward? And I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm not strong. And I would just, I'm someone who travels the world and takes all these big risks. You think I really want to be sitting at home and not riding in a car? And really? But my cousin, even recently last year, or not last year, sorry, a few months ago, whoops, timeline. He was visiting again and he goes, Annie Vaughn, like, I know, Mitzi, like who makes a choice to isolate themselves the way she's done over the past 6 years? Like COVID isolation is nothing to me now because I had lived that way already since 2014.
Mm. Okay, so you said, yeah, let's talk about what was challenging for you, and then we'll talk more about what helped you. Yeah, kind of list all that off.
I feel like, not being able to go in many places, like now you realize how much formaldehyde is in carpets, how many movie theaters have like popcorn that you can't tolerate, the gas off of furniture. Like that really made that I couldn't go many places at all, like completely.
So I didn't realize this. So you were just multiple chemically sensitive, like all over the
Yes.
place. Okay.
All
Okay.
over the place, like blown out. But so what I remember one time when I first got out in Louisville going to the mall and it was like Macy's and the coat department. Like, have you ever experienced this? Like, I went to the coat department with all brand new coats and I couldn't hardly stand near them because it felt so bad. Like, all the dye, I guess, and poly whatever coming off the coats. I was like,
Yeah, the waterproofing and the leather treatment and yeah. And some people like that smell. I mean, it associates with new and shopping and some dopamine stuff, but yeah, you always got to wash clothes. And that's why I'm a fan of used clothes too. Yeah.
Exactly. But then you're like, use clothes, me mold, because now I'm to the point where I can't do it's mainly about the mold now. Like that is something I have not been able to move through. I'm not scared of it the way I was. Like before, I was so sure I was gonna die every time I came encountered mold. So one of the things that was hard was when after a year of working with these integratives in Louisville, I felt stronger. But I moved back home and my mom was like, oh, our house is clean, come back. I walked in after carrying all my things, driving 4 hours, and I walked in and my whole lungs seized right back up. I was devastated. What? And why? How would my mom know it was clean? She might have cleaned. She can't clean the mold. So I was like, I can't stay here. So then she goes, go over to our dance studio. We have an apartment there. See if you can stay there. And I'm already crying, driving over there. Like, what did I just do? Go upstairs, walk in the door of the dance studio, and it's similarly but different. It just like almost arrests me. And I call a guy friend who I sort of dated, but he was really more of a friend, crying. Like, I have nowhere to sleep tonight and actually have nowhere to live. Like that's the hardest part of all this. I just recently went through something very similar again, where I broke up with a boyfriend, not the guy I'm talking about because it's a 6 year span we're talking about, but we broke up and I had to move back to the studio and it was never clean, but I was better. And I really tapped through one night, like, you're gonna have to be strong, body. I need you to protect me. I need to make it through this because I don't have a clean place to live. In the Ohio River Valley, it's mountains, it's central Appalachia. Mold sits here. You can walk out any day on a wet day and you're like, damn, I smell the mold.
It's interesting the regional aspect. I went to college in Southeast Ohio and I developed asthma there, probably for a couple of different reasons. But, when I went in, they're like, yeah, everybody's got this. I didn't know anything about mold. They just said it's allergies or whatever. But we did actually have mold in a college home I lived in 2 years. It always comes back to you when you start talking story with people. Yeah, it's important to think about the regional humidity. It's probably just for humid, right? Where you are. Is that
Absolutely.
correct?
It looks like a deciduous rainforest, because it's so lush here and it sticks. And I mean, ultimately, I'd like to leave. That's been the goal for the last 3 or 4 years. But, then it was like my family, and there are lots of things here. And now with being online, you can do work everywhere. And where, I don't know, I'm in transition in general. I'm in that perimenopausal transition. It's like, who and where will I be my next self and hopefully be healthy or strong enough?
So I love how you put that so elegantly. And I think that can be the gift also of this time in life. Like it's not easy, but when things aren't so fixed, you get to kind of wait and see or create or whatever. I'm really into the wait and see right now, like not trying to make anything happen, just like I'm just gonna let this come to me. I'm not gonna worry. I'm just gonna like let the opportunities come with me. I'm sure you know a ton of people and have a lot of friends, and it's gonna come to you, right? What's next?
I think, but like I didn't start this life in an easy situation. And so my dad is a Vietnam vet. My mom was a single parent. I grew up in a mixed race family in the 1960s in Appalachia.
Yeah, that's real.
So, right. And so, you know, I'm not saying I had the worst life. We made a great time of it, my mom and I, like what you're saying. But it's like at some point, you go through the whole God, Allah, Jah, Yahweh, who, what is there? Why? And what, just in general, like, how long is the struggle? Like, continue, like a constant drip. So, no, it's not a,
Sure. Yeah.
so,
I'm just saying where I'm at, which is a much better place than where I was at for,
yeah.
yeah, a bunch
So
of
you have to
years,
make
went
peace
through
with
all
it. What are
this.
you gonna?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bridget,
Yeah.
you're gonna go crazy if you don't make peace with it.
Yeah, you're going to kill yourself in a different way, right? By worrying and stressing and all that. But yeah, that's also somewhat automatic. So when did you find out you did have mold for sure, like in your body or in your living space? By testing, perhaps?
Now that's the thing we never did is test. We've tested recently. I've been working in a group of women who are what is called a hormone mastermind. And we did our GI map tests, and yes, those indicators were there. And we did actually, when I went to Louisville at first, there was an allergy doctor who did test for that. I had severe markers of mold allergies, several different kinds. And as well as he was the only doctor that would do chemical sensitivities that was close to me. So those were marked very early. I forgot about that. There's so many things. Yeah, so that was marked, and then it's confirmed with the GI map test. And then when you look at some of the in the blood test, those inflammatory markers, I've totally hit those in low ranges. Oh, sorry, I can't recall all of them, but you
That's
probably,
okay.
yeah.
And so you've never had a urine mold test?
No, I probably need
Okay.
to do it.
It would be interesting. I'm a bit like you. I was a pretty late tester. Technology's kind of changing quickly and affordability and all that. But I think you have plenty of evidence, right? But it,
Yeah.
it may be interesting. Yeah. And as you move from place to place, doing some testing, 1 week this event comes out, we have a lot of great information on the plate testing, which is very affordable as a
Oh,
place to
good.
start. Yeah. So okay, so you kind of were piecing it together. It sounds like over the years with trying different things. I love how you're saying you're getting stronger, and now you can kind of tack through a bit of a threatening environment. I think that's a sign of a good stage. Like I think, yeah, that some of us are in where we can be like, this doesn't feel great, but I'm just going to try to calm my nervous system and spend an hour in this place or
And
whatever.
then, right, because I wasn't there 5 years ago. I mean, it was really like my cousins are like, leave her alone. She has to leave. Like we go in a restaurant. I'm like, did you guys just spray for like bugs here? And they're like, yeah, why? And I'm like, I can smell it and it's really hurting. I gotta go. So I couldn't have tapped back then. I couldn't have gone outside and taken deep breaths, realizing my liver and my body was going to detox with the O2 coming in, couldn't have realized that at all. I do that now. Like recently, I was like, right, breathing really does assist in detoxing. Like, it's not just calming, it's detoxing, like literally exchanging things in your cells to help that process. One of my new things, when I'm exposed, is the coffee enema. Love the coffee enema.
Love me that coffee. Still doing it. I'm still doing it.
It's a game changer for my whole life. Look, my dark circles are going away. I mean, they were horrendous and I've had them my whole life. So I think thinking I really don't have good detox mechanisms. Like there may be a snip there, in the genetic code, but I haven't done that testing, but it's pretty obvious. Like I don't. Like now that I'm
Yeah.
doing it, I'm like, holy crap. So one of the outcomes of this mold, what I do notice too, even now, even being okay with being scared of it, I have serious arthritis response right when I'm in it. Like when I go back to the studio, because I still teach there, um, even now this is the first clean apartment mold free in the River Valley that I've been in, period. It's a brand new building. They actually have the dehumidifying system on the air.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's the first building I've been in like this, but it's at the university here. When I go back, I feel really good. And when I go into the studio, depending on which part of the building I'm in, my knees start hurting, my feet start hurting, my back from the years of being a dancer, but it all inflames. Like it's just a quick, like reignite. I'm not scared of it. That means I come home and I use the coffee enema. With first time I used that, Bridget, I did a dance class and did a grand plie full down, no pain in my thighs. My muscles, actually, the fascia just like let me do it.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning it again. I love these client stories because it's like not me telling you to do this crazy stuff. Like I have a lot of clients who love coffee enema, and not all of them started with me. I know for me, I don't know about for you. I was just in that place of being so low that I would try anything. I was like, okay, I'll try
Yeah.
it. And then it helps. And then it helps. Yeah.
How long have
Yeah.
you been doing it?
I've been doing it like 5 years now. I
Oh,
still do
wow.
it. Yeah, I mean, I don't do it as much, but maybe
What
like
is your
every Saturday.
average?
Average
Every
what?
Saturday?
Yeah, I'd say about 4 times a month I do it. Yeah, it's time consuming on a weekday, so sometimes I'll say I'm gonna do it on a weekday, and I do, and then I'm like, I probably should have been a little more focused this
Right.
morning than doing a coffee
Right.
enema. But if I'm sicker, if I needed it to get through the week, I would do it. And even now, like say I've was at like I was recently at a conference and traveling and just all the I don't think I was mold exposed, but just like you said, all the new things. It's just still a little bit much. So I think I did a couple that week following.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels, I never wanted to do it. And the girls in our group were like, oh, I did. And I was like, these girls, what are they? They're tripping, that's a little freak in them or something. I don't, sorry, girls. They know I love them. But I was thinking that. Let's be real. I was like, what the hell? Whoops, no pun intended. But so like it was to the point the pain, like even trying some of the new hormones, I couldn't even do supplements. Like my body was reacting like, this is too much. And I'm like, they kept saying, it's your liver, it's your liver, it's your liver. And I'm like, and finally I was like, all right, fine, I'll try it, and ordered that kit. And I love it. I'm average now like about 3 times or 4 times a week. I haven't, last week was so hectic, I couldn't even get in it. Like you said, it was just too much. But I feel like sometimes when I really need to relax, like it's a moment where it feels like I'm relaxing bizarrely. It's just like, feels good.
100%. I do my planner. I'm like, as often the times I'm messaging my friends out of town. That might sound disgusting, but it's not. It's not like it's once you get it down too. Like I have gloves, I got the peroxide. Like there's nothing touching nothing if I'm in there getting some stuff done. And yeah, it's relaxing. That's why I like it on a Saturday morning. And it's certainly better than staying up late drinking and then having a bunch of coffee and Advil the next day. It's really nice. So we've said a few of your helpful things. We're family, some practitioners, chlorella, coffee enema. Anything else you want to lift there?
This one is that, can I show it? This is
Sure.
a lifesaver. This one, and I don't hear many people in the mold world talking about it. This is a wash with these ingredients. Can you see these ingredients?
Yeah. What do you mean wash?
Oh, sorry. Putting 2 drops in your neti pot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This comes from one of Kentucky's finest herbalists. He's actually Myron Hardesty. He's one of the top herbalists in the country, actually, like
That's
in the top.
amazing. Okay.
This, mama, I almost ran out of this
It's just a
recently.
tincture. So see people
Yes,
can maybe recreate it or reach out to him on the ratios or something.
yes.
Okay.
And like even so the other day, I find, I don't know about your audience who has short-term memory loss. That's one of my quick indicators. Like it's bizarre. Do you experience that? Like as soon as I'm in it, my conversation, the flow stops. There are things that I can't connect anymore. And I have to tell people I'm so used to it now that I'm like, I'm having moldy brain right now. I cannot remember how I'm trying to connect this thought. As soon as I leave this space and put that in my nose, wash it out, and maybe do it once or twice that day, and the next day or 3 days if I need it, everything comes back.
That's really cool. So maybe it's just kind of clearing some, even hitting some areas of the brain in a sense with the like local wash. And then certainly you could have allergens or pathogens that have landed in your nose you're clearing out. I used to be a big nasal clearer for a long time, early in the like daily. I would use the Neil Meds saline. I would did that morning and night with distilled water. Like I was hardcore. And then more recently, I would just do like a silver nasal spray, maybe a little biocidin. And it's interesting the timeline. Like I do some of that now just more for immunity and COVID and stuff, but like I don't really need it. So I used to just need to be not so much for memory. That's an interesting point. I would just get a lot of like post nasal stuff, lymph congestion. So that would help that. For memory, though, yeah, I mean, I was still getting interviewed in work, and I would just say, I just had to accept that I couldn't always remember things, and I would just say to whoever's interviewing me, do you remember what that's called? Because I can't bring up that word right now.
Yes,
And
that's
that's not embarrassing.
no, I just got
Life.
you. I'm now because I'm with some new people and I'm producing some new projects. And so as a producer, like I'm a performer, writer, producer, artivist, educator. But when you show up as producer, you got to remember what the hell you just said. and one of the spaces we rehearsed in has mold in it. And the guy, I'm like, all right, doors have to be open. I have to sit by the window and on a nice day. And then that's when I say, hey, sorry, I can't remember. Moldy brain. You guys got to help me. With new people, it's a little more challenging. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, just I think it's just kind of meeting people where they're at. And, I didn't grow up with a disability or anyone in my family disabled, but if people are watching, they know what that's like to live with a disabled child or live with a serious head injury. Like there's a lot of people going through it actually. So it's okay to just not judge yourself and just say, this is who I am. These are my capabilities. I need to sit by the door. I can't remember some stuff. And, people can think what they want, but if you just say it like, this is my reality, I think that's an important skill to learn through all this.
well, that's interesting you say that on a couple kind of comedic approach to it, but like traveling in hotels. So getting back out in the world. The first time I actually got on a plane, I was scared to death that my lungs would react, like they would hurt like they did in the car and all that. But now I've gotten to the point, the people who my agent knows, they don't book my hotel room without me calling first or they calling, no air fresheners, all that stuff. I got the molecule piggy, that little small one, the air filter. I was carrying that. And I take the home biotic with me. So if I get, so it just helps psychosomatic, maybe, I don't know, but it helps calm me down when I get in. But there are some hotel rooms that new carpet and certain hotel chains use cheaper products and it's just a horrible gas off situation. So with work, it's like telling people I can't stay in hotels. I can't travel unless this or, and still sitting by a window. But I also said, this is the thing I was saying, funny. I'm like my last boyfriend or whatever, we're in the off phase right now. He was like, sounds like to me you got a SSI case. And I'm like, no doubt. I'm like, I think I got a real disability. 6 years of this being a mold refugee. I've been calling myself a mold refugee. Like how many times I've moved. And I was living at the host studio for the last 2 years, and my mom had some hair up her. She wanted to clean the back big dance room. Well, it released under the flooring. They pulled it up. Our building was flooded 3 times because of a new bridge they built right to our building.
Oh
It
gosh.
released mold into the ventilation. I had to move out last month, stayed in hotels. That's a whole nother thing. People in the COVID stress, smoking drugs, smoking opioids, whatever. It's been crazy. So
So
I
you
was
in
like,
the rooms, you're smelling that residue
it
and
comes right
experiencing.
through. And
Wow.
and then the
Yeah.
hotel, I mean, thankfully I was in 2 different hotels before I got to this new apartment recently, But I'm like, I'm a mold refugee for real. People don't understand. I'm not trying to show up for work looking disheveled. Like I am getting back in the world and doing what when I was laying in that bed in 2014, I remember praying, going, God, if I get to live, because I felt like I would die. And I said, if I get to live, I promise I will. I know I sound like a kid, but I was like, I promise I will do all that I can to live up to the goal I had for my life. Because my work as an artist is around equity and social justice and creating art that really allows communities and strangers to connect in authentic ways around challenging topics. And, that was one thing, Bridget. I was like, every day when I was at my uncle's in the bed, I got up and I said, I'm going to call every PBS producer on the list and get until I see that every PBS station in America picks up my solo show. Because my show is about finding my dad, who was a missing Vietnam veteran. And I had already in New York, before I came home, I had toured it around the world. And I was at Edinburgh Fringe and all this in South Africa. And it just didn't turn out the way I thought. And I think I also came home. So you talk about where is it that we have this breakdown? I sort of had a confluence of events. It was the steroid shot, but there was a lot emotionally moving back home, changing my life, like all these things around me, and then the shot. And it was just
It's like a
like,
wake up call in a sense,
and
or
a breakup. Wake up, break up, break down.
yeah, there's all that too. And I think that's all really rich. I'm just finishing up my mold book and I got all that in there because life is all mixed together. And we all often are discovering this in midlife. Some are getting it when they have a new family. Like there's just other things going on, other challenges for sure. And when you said being like kind of bedbound, yeah, there are legitimate people in a real state of disability with mold. I think one of the more positive things is a disability you can often get out of, which is amazing. You know,
Yes. And I
it's
wasn't willing, right? Like, so
but
where
you have to
someone said,
know, right? You have to
and
know and do the work. Go
and
ahead.
find
Sorry.
your resilience. No, but that's right. Find your connect with your own resilience, connect with your ancestral resilience, connect with your feminine. If you're a woman, like just looking at the history of women in the past 10,000 years and any of these issues, like at some point I got reconnected. And, there'll be times when, I mean, that stuff 3 weeks ago, Bridget, though, I was like, my mom, here's the hardest. What was the hardest thing of the whole thing? My mom sold that big house this summer. And that is the most safe place to me in the world. And so when the mold and I had to move out that time 5 years ago, I cried so hard. And I'm like, and then selling the house, but the mold was so all over. And my mom, to this day, I said, you know why you have arthritis so bad? Your knees are gone, your back is gone. Yes, you're a dancer, but you lived in that moldy house
Mm-hmm.
for 40 years. Eat your joints away on top of your diet.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. I want to talk about the homelessness too. I probably didn't exactly use that word for myself because I didn't want to disrespect people who were in a more severe form of home. I
Yeah,
mean, we were
right.
at least middle class, but we were legitimately like didn't have a home for 2 months and traveled in a van. And then twice my son started school while we lived in a hotel for different reasons, and it just broke my heart. Like it was so hard to be, I'm like having a moment right now, but like to feel like I have to like pack, you don't even have a fridge to pack your kids lunch. And like, again, I like you have to kind of find your resilience and keep going. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge like that sense of homelessness, whatever extent it is for people going through it. And it often lasts a long time because you move into a place and it's not right, right? That's happened to all of us pretty
But
much.
you start smelling it, you start seeing it. In this apartment right here I'm in, I was in another one in the hotels for 3 weeks. I had to ask for different rooms for different reasons. And I'm like, how many times do I have to find my voice to tell them this isn't working for me? And
Yeah.
like, but did you, Bridget, in that period with your son and moving, Did you have, I'm curious, how many people did you have that you felt comfortable or safe enough to ask for support for moving in with them? Were there any people you could ask?
Yeah, mostly my parents we lived with. We kind of we lived with that. We were in their house initially, but then when we came back and ended up in a hotel, we had kind of contaminated their house a bit, bringing our stuff in. So when we came back after being in the van, my husband was like, "I'm not comfortable here," and I was like, so we hadn't found our own place yet. So we were in a hotel looking for a place, again, like not expected to be in this hotel, not in a convenient location. When are we going to find a place? How many nights are, it's just a lot, it's stressful. So those are some of the, I think, yeah, the hardest things. And you just have to kind of, I felt, just put one foot in front of the other that day, you
Yeah,
know.
no, in the hotel it was like that. I was like, how many times I've already moved? How many times, how many comforters, brand new comforters I've already thrown away in the moving back to the studio and moving, all this stuff. And what I find interesting, I said I would like to write a book about this. Like, I know a ton of people in my hometown area, but did not feel comfortable asking but one or two for help.
I guess I didn't either. Yeah, a couple times I thought, isn't my friend going to offer? But we were a family of three with a dog, but still, like, we were like homeless. But I didn't ask. But I was surprised that people didn't offer
Here's the
occasionally.
thing, my grandparents, and I said this to people, it was such a hurt on the heart. Sorry, hard on the heart. I was trying to get the H's out. My grandparents, I remember them in the 20s and 30s, or not, they were born in the 20s, but in the 30s and 40s, like moving places for work. And this is my Irish and Dutch Spanish native grandparents. They moved wherever they had to go to get work, from Appalachia up to Maryland. Nobody that they stayed with ever was like, don't come, it's an inconvenience. Nobody ever said, how long are you going to stay? People back then, you did that to support each other. Black families, immigrant families, you stay in the little bitty house together until you get up on your feet. It was so disheartening to instill, to realize that we are a culture in America. I don't know anywhere else. But right now, I can't believe more of us can't say, hey, come here. I don't care if you get on my nerves. I don't care what your feet smell like. I don't care about my personal space right now. You need help.
That's a great point. I think we've forgotten how to live this that way. I just read this beautiful novel about Korean immigrants in Japan. And yeah, they were all just helping each other out. But yeah, I think we've lost that. Maybe we'll regain some of that over time. I mean, there's some aspects of co-living with especially with my parents that I've lived with a few times that I like, you help each other and that kind of a thing. So we're definitely riffing at this point. I think we could talk all day. We've kind of shared a few of the wins or lessons, but are there any others, Mitzi, you want to share for people listening and going through this?
I mean, I think it does this experience, and not that I wasn't deep. Remember, I told you what my story, how I came in this human body. So I was already very contemplative. I was already looking at society and what does it mean for a little kid, right? So it's another, yeah, it's just this experience has been another layer of getting in tune with myself and those around me. And if you can be patient with yourself and find support within yourself and around, and how whatever your spirituality is, it's very helpful because it's really stressful, and it's just required a new level of faith. And I think this 6 years, I grew up Irish Catholic. We don't really talk about faith the way that my Black Baptist family or my white Baptist family does. And finding this word faith and practicing it is a whole new level of existence. And I am here with it. One last thing I want to say, and thanks to you and Mickey, I knew my gut needed work. Like, we've been doing the hormones, the detoxing, glucose support helped with the transition of bleeding, actually, with the perimenopause and the fibroid stuff. But I knew I still needed stuff. I had a fibroid removed in March with a myosier. That was the only thing I was willing to do because here, by the way, everybody wanted to cut my uterus out for a fibroid first that was this big and almond size. I'm like, my uterus has to go because of an almond sized fibroid? You're crazy. The same people who are like, how do you raise your immune system? Anyway, the surgery caused my gut to have, I was really doing good with probiotics and my gut response to anything I was eating and my arthritis. So surgery, they put something in your system for the trach, and it was horrible ever since. But I've been doing the Mega IgG and this probiotic. And I just started from the testing, the biocidin drops.
Okay.
Woo, what a game changer.
Awesome. I did not plant her to say this. We carry all those things. We offer that GI mount. Yeah, they're powerful. They're
No,
powerful
like going
products.
in the studio this week, I started this about 3 weeks, these 4 weeks ago. I didn't like just this 2 years
No,
ago.
I'm with you. You need its partners.
Together
Yeah.
you can do them. I didn't like this by itself. So
I
this,
love the fiber. Have you done the fiber?
no.
Mega Pre. Sometimes I only take that in a day. I love the Mega Pre.
What do you mean? What is it for?
It's a pre-fiber to feed the friendly bacteria.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, I got to get you on that one
But
next.
this is the thing. So look, I'll say this in my last comments. Like, okay, so when we were 14 and 15, we wanted new outfits and stuff, and we get these, and that was exciting. Then you get older and like you give yourself a treat and a trip or a dinner or whatever. For me, it's like now you feel like I get really excited about like I'm not a supplement freak, but like overdoer, but it's like exciting to find new things that can help you and aid you in your health and like to have money to spend on that. And it's like, there for a while, I was reducing down things I would buy. And it was like lipstick or makeup was a nice, extra purchase. Now it's like a new supplement.
Oh yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I just spent money on this glucose monitor talking about glucose. It's not cheap, but I'm like, that's sexy to me. I want to check that shit out. And talking about aids you, it also anti-ages you. We're probably about the same age and really dialing in your health at this age, it's critical because you were going to fall apart or you are going to thrive. This is the turning point, I think.
I think so
So,
too. And looking
yeah.
at my own mother and family members on both sides of the family, had to really, thankfully, I have my great aunt on my dad's side who's still living and asking her questions, and then my mom and her people. So I was like, oof, you better get this together because this is that turning point. Either you're going to thrive in the years that you may be blessed to be here, or however you want to look at it. Sometimes I'm not sure of blessing, but anyway. But if I'm going to be here, I want to be able to stretch and do yoga and play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you. I I like to just present supplements and options as like a menu. Everybody wants me to always make a protocol, so I kind of try. But I feel like you have your intuition and your interest, just like buying a pair of shoes or what. It's like, ooh, that looks interesting to me, or I read something cool about that. That sounds like it. So you get to be empowered and pick, and sometimes it's a miss and sometimes it's a big win. So yeah, I think it's fun as well. You don't have to take a million things a day. It's just what right now is the fit for you.
That I think is key. Like, right. Because what works for me in my mold journey may not work for you. And in this group of women that we've stayed together, like there'll be times like women will struggle. And I think that's cultural for us all around the world. We struggle with like being honest with doctors and healers and helpers and friends about like, that doesn't work for me. And I'm like, girl, how much longer are you going to stay on that and not tell them you're not doing it? And I'm the first one that's like, even with some of those hormonal adaptogens, I was like, that don't feel good. I'm gonna stop that. I don't do it.
Yeah, everybody's different. I really love a collaborative process, and you're an artist. I think you know that, where it's like, I think that's what this is with practitioner. I think that's our future, is collaboration and you having your intuition and your own study, and then we kind of come together as equals. That's kind of how we work in our, like, because you guys are all so knowledgeable, you come you come ready to throw
But
down as well.
to be in relationship with you. Our
Yes.
healers, we should be in relationship. And, like I said, I have a degree in environmental science. It's heavy in biology and chemistry. I mean, I just have that science and artist thing with me. And so I love when a health healer, whether they're a doctor or whatever, or practitioner, that they can handle that I come in also knowing my body. And so I was so grateful for you, Bridget. Like, this is the first time we were really gotten to talk, but it's been, I think that year that I came home and couldn't get in the house and had to go
Oh
to the guy.
gosh.
That
So
was when
interesting. I had no, I probably wasn't talking much about mold with
no,
you
you were
or
just
anything.
in the beginning of hormone stuff, I think, and you were on Instagram. I found you on Instagram, and you were the first woman on Instagram that was like, "Oh my God, she's talking about women in a way that she's not talking about, that there's solutions in there somewhere." And I just kept, and at the time I had no money because that's the mold journey. Money comes and goes and goes and goes. And I was like, I didn't even have money to like pay for, testing or services, but I just kept reading everything you were writing and kept doing my own research. And then when I could get money, I would try it, or I would do your free 15-minute, and it helped me so much. So for you sharing your wisdom, you helped me get to the next level, to a place where I could get healthy enough, make choices and make money, and then start paying for services finally, like
That's really
crazy.
well said too, because I think there can be a frustration or like, I'm always like, we offer lots of stuff for free and you just meet us whatever level you're at because educating yourself is always valuable. Yeah. And like you said, it's the same for me. I'm a normal human. I don't always have the budget for what I want to try. But when I get a little extra money, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this or that. Right. So yeah, we all get to make that decision. So I think it's good you mentioned that as well. Mitzi, I am so thankful you came on, and I love these stories. Like they always turn out to be just so rich and wonderful. And when you can see like the actual like glowing human being who's had to go through this and has come out on the other side, like I know you're still growing and figuring it all out, but you've obviously come a long way. You're working, you're functional.
I got some of my hair back. I mean, like, I was losing hair. I mean, it was damn.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the worst. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And let's keep in touch, supporting each other's projects.
Yes, and keep doing everything you're doing because it made a difference. Bridget, I want to give you a hug. Can you take your right hand and put it under your
Right
right
here.
and your heart on your left, and your other hand, so under your arm? So you're gonna
Okay.
hug yourself and then
Okay.
cross over, and I'm hugging you and you're hugging yourself.
Oh,
Thank you so much for all you've done. Oh my goodness.
thank you so much. Like we got to do this together after all these years. Lovely. Thanks everyone for watching. I know that was a long one, but I always think there's some little nuggets that are just going to hit the right person. So I hope you found something that hit you and stay tuned.